Hey everybody, Chris Parody here, coming to you with the third and final installment of this series on St. Louis blues. Today we're going to be learning the third and final section, the C section, which is similar to the A section. It's also a 12-bar blues in the key of G major. So after we were playing in that tango feel in the B section, which was an 8-measure structure, 16 measures once you repeat it, we're returning to a 12-bar blues into a more traditional bluesy sort of rhythm. Although there are some differences between the C section and the A section, so there's some insights we can take away about the different sort of structures and themes we might encounter when we're playing different 12-bar blues. There's so many different ways you can tweak the form, and so we'll get just a little glimpse at some of those ways as we play through the C section and compare it to the A section. Melba has joined us, so we're ready to officially start the lesson. And we're going to look at the second ending of the B section to lead us into the C section. So when we play that second ending, the final two measures of the B part, and we get to this measure, 1, 2, 3, we're resting on that fourth beat so far. But as we move into the C part, we're going to add the pickup notes onto that fourth beat. So bring your ring finger and pinky to the 3rd fret of D and G, and we're going to pinch those two notes together with the thumb and index finger. And then just move your pinky up to the 4th fret of G, and that gives us 4 and in that final measure of the B part. That leads us into this theme. The first two measures of the C section there. And with my thumb, I'm alternating between string 6 and 4. I still have that 3rd fret of the low E string fretted with my middle finger, and then I'm going to take my index finger and fret the 2nd fret of D. But you can see I'm lifting it off every time after I pick it. And the reason for that is since we start with that pinch of strings 6, 4, and 3, 4 and 3 are open to begin. And then as we fret that 2nd fret with our index finger, we're also going to fret the 3rd fret of the G string with our ring finger. And when we come down to play that second bass note, beat 2, we're going to pinch the 4th and 3rd string. And then our pinky's going to go in front of the ring finger on the 4th fret of G. We're going to grab that on the and of 2. So that would give us 1, 2, and. Now here's where I was mentioning I have to lift my index finger off. In fact, I really need to lift everything off except for the middle finger so that I can just do that again. And again. And then it changes ever so slightly in the rhythm as we're getting to the last two beats of measure 2. We're going to start again with that 3-fingered pinch, but this time on the and of 3, we're going to fret that 3rd fret of G, and we just pick that all by itself since it's on the and that means now we're going to fret the 2nd fret again with the index finger and the 4th fret again with the pinky, but now those notes are being pinched together. And then we play the open G as we take our fingers off, except for that middle finger that's still there to give us the first bass note of measure 3. Okay, let me play those final two beats of measure 2. That would be 3 and 4 and. So that's really the only little rhythmic variation. All the fretted notes are staying the same. And we start again with 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and that leads us through those first two measures. Let me do it without any narration. So the key thing there is just realize the first 6 beats are basically the same 2 beats repeated 3 times, and then the final 2 beats are just that slight rhythmic variation. One other quick note about those first 2 measures is about the picking hand. So I start with that 3-fingered pinch, thumb, index, middle, on strings 6, 4, and 3, but then I drop my thumb to get that second bass note, and when I do that, I also drop my index finger to get the note that is paired with it, the 3rd fret of the G string. And then I keep my index finger there to get that 4th fret note. So you can see with my picking hand, the index finger is kind of dropping with the thumb, and then I bring it back up to the D string so that I can do that 3-fingered pinch. little shifting there of the index finger back and forth between the D and the G string, depending on what we're trying to do there. Measure 3, this measure is really familiar to us. We played it a bunch of times in the A section. It sounds like this. So it's a familiar theme. We're just playing strings 6, 4, 5, 4 with our thumb in the bass pattern. We're fretting the 2nd fret of the A string as we do that. And then after the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th beat, in the and beat, we're just putting the open G string between those thumb notes. Okay, measure 4 also really similar to some measures that we played in the A section with one little change at the end of it. So in measure 4, after I hit that first bass note, I'm going to play the open B string on the and beat. Then I'm going to fret the 3rd fret of the D string with my ring finger, and I'm going to do a 3-fingered pinch on strings 4, 3, and 2. And on the and beat there, I just repeated the picking, but only with my index and middle finger. And then on beat 3, I'm just going to bring the thumb up to the 6th string. And I'm going to do the same thing, just with the thumb having moved. So that last one was pinching strings 6, 3, and 2. And then just echoing that 3rd and 2nd string again with the index and middle finger. So that's really similar as well. The only little change is right here at the end, we're basically going to repeat the pickup notes that we played to lead us into the C part. So let me just play measures 3 and 4. Which is going to lead us into 5 and 6 here. In measure 5, we're going to fret the 3rd fret of A with the middle finger, the 2nd fret of G with the index finger. Pinch those notes with your thumb and your middle finger on your picking hand. Then just lift your index finger off the 2nd fret to open up the G string. Pinch them again. Take that index finger, move it up to the 2nd fret of D, and with your picking hand, use your index finger now to grab that note. So although the index finger would normally pick the G string, here we're making a little exception. We're going to move the middle finger up to the G string and use that finger just to leave the index finger available to get that note on the and of 2. On the 3rd beat, we just play a pinch of that 3rd fret of A and the open G again. And then on the 4th beat, add your ring finger to the 3rd fret of G. You're going to pinch again with the thumb and middle finger. And then take the index finger, fret the 2nd fret of G as your ring finger lifts off so that you can then pick that note with your middle finger. So that would give us this for measure 5. As we start measure 6, keep your fingers right where they were at the end of measure 5. And the first 3 beats of measure 6 are exactly the same as measure 5. And similar to what happened in measure 2, the last 2 beats are just going to change the rhythm and add one new note in this case. So the ring finger is going to fret the 3rd fret on the and of 3. We're going to play that note with the middle finger again. And then your pinky is going to fret the 4th fret of the G string. You're going to pinch that with your bass note. Pretty dissonant sound when you hear it by itself, but then it's going to resolve as you play the open G with your middle finger picking. And then you land back onto that 3rd fret bass note of the low E. So let's just hear measure 6. And now let's hear measure 5 and 6. Measures 7 and 8 are the same as measures 3 and 4, so once again we're going to play. And the only difference is where we end up. So when you're playing the final beat of measure 8, where you're on the 3rd fret with your ring and pinky finger on beat 4, and then you're moving up to the 4th fret of G on the and of 4, keep both fingers down so that you can then just move them up to the 5th fret, add your index finger to the 3rd fret of B, and you're going to start the first beat of measure 9 with a big 4-fingered pinch here starting with your thumb on string 5, and then you're going to play strings 4, 3, and 2 with the index, middle, and ring. So after we've sounded that first chord, we're then just going to move the index finger up to the 3rd fret of the G string. On the second beat, we're going to pinch our bass note with that note. And on the end of that beat, we're going to play the 4th fret of the G with the middle finger. So that would give us 1, 2, and on beat 3, we're going to pinch strings 5 and 4. That 4th string is our melody note, so we really want to hear the melody doing that, basically. And then again, we're just going to be pedaling that A note in our bass. Okay, on the and of 3, we're coming back to the 3rd fret, but since it's an and beat here, we're just going to pick that note by itself. And then on the 4, we're going to add our middle finger to the 4th fret, and we're going to pinch that with our bass note. Okay, a little bit of a funny thing here. The melody goes down to the 3rd fret, that C note on the 3rd fret of the A string. So now we have the 9th measure. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Okay, that first beat of the next measure, of measure 10, I'm fretting the 5th fret of low E with my ring finger. Then I'm going to go back to the 3rd fret of G with my index on the and of 1. And on the second beat, I'm going to go back to the 4th fret of G with my middle, but I'm also going to fret the 5th fret of D with my ring finger. I'm going to pinch those two notes together. And on the and of 2, I'm going to play that note on the A string again. I'm going to give it some vibrato. So that would be, let's say, from the and of 4 in measure 9. It would sound like that. Now that last note I'm playing, I'm actually going to let that ring into the 3rd beat. So we're not going to play another bass note on the 3rd beat. We're just going to leave some space there and let that note ring out. It's actually a melody note there, so we're just kind of giving some prominence to the melody. There's a lot going on in these measures, so it's kind of nice to drop a bass note out there. And then we're going to go back to that 3rd fret for the and of 3. And then we're going to go back to the 4th fret of G and the 5th fret of D for the 4th beat of that measure. And then the open G string will lead us into measure 11 as we return to that 3rd fret of the low E string. Here's measure 9 and 10 together now, nice and slow. Okay, so there's a lot going on in those measures, partially because the melody and the bass line are almost colliding at times. I think those measures are, in particular, although this would be a good thing to do throughout the whole song, one reason that I recommend listening to something like the Bessie Smith version is you can really key in on the singer's part and hear someone sing the melody. It's wonderful to hear it sung through the guitar or another instrument, but nothing really substitutes for hearing the singer. I think on this phrase, more than any other in the song, it's a really helpful one to attach the vocal part to it. So to do that, I'm going to back up just a little bit to the 4th beat of measure 8, because that kind of starts this phrase. So what the singer's doing here is going, or else he wouldn't have gone so far away from me. So that can be a really excellent way to just add more musicality to what you're playing and just help you to hear the melody and separate it from all of the things that are going on in that part. The chord, the bass notes, and then of course, like I said, the melody notes kind of colliding with all of that. But in general, always good to listen to the singer. It's going to just make your playing more expressive and give you that musical imprint in your mind that will help you really connect with what it is that you're playing. We finish things off in measure 10 with that open G note, and that's going to lead us into the first ending. We're going to fret that 3rd fret of the low E string again, play that on beat 1 of measure 11, and then we're going to play the thumb on string 4 for the 2nd beat. On the and of 2, we're going to pick the open G string, so that gives us 1, 2, and. Okay, now we're going to move up to the 6th fret of the low E, fret that with the index, the 6th fret of the D, fret that with the middle, and the 7th fret of the G, fret that with the ring finger. This is going to give us a B flat 7 chord. We're going to pinch that with the thumb, index, and middle finger on the picking hand. The middle finger is going to pick the G string note one extra time there, so that would be 3 and. Okay, on the 4, you're just going to give that a little hit with your middle finger strumming down is mostly what I'm doing there. You could use your index finger, you could use your index and middle. Just getting that percussive sound with your nail slapping down on the string. So that would give us 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, and then take your fingers, keep them on those strings, just move them down to the 5th fret, so they're all going to stack together on the 5th fret on those same strings 6, 4, and 3. This is going to give us A minor 7. Same exact rhythmic delivery with the picking hand. And then we're going to go to a familiar chord we've played before. It's this D7. So I'm on frets 5, 4, and 5 of the A, D, and G string. And I'm just going to hit those all together like we did earlier in the song. Right there, I'm just trying to cut my chord short after the strum. Right there, same thing. And then right there, even though it's not a strum, I'm picking with 3 fingers. I'm doing the same thing and cutting that chord short to give it a nice kind of staccato punctuation. And all I'm doing to create that sound is I'm just leaving my fingers on the strings, but I'm just lifting them off their notes and continuing to touch the strings to stop it from vibrating. So if you haven't done that before, that's a great way to do it, is just hit the chord and let it ring, and then just lift your fingers off and feel yourself controlling the strings. And then it's just a matter of timing to get that touch down. Now after that last chord, you're just going to be back into playing the pickup notes that led us into the C part. So that would give us now for ending 1. And now we're into the repetition of the C part. We're going to play the whole thing again. And when we come to ending 2, we're going to start with that really familiar measure we've played as measures 3 and measure 7 of the C section, but we played it in the A section as well. And measure 8 is really simple. We're just going to hit that bass note again. 1, 2. Okay, now we're going to make a G7 chord by adding our ring finger to the 3rd fret of the D string and our pinky to the 3rd fret of the B string. And we're going to do a little roll of the fingers there on strings 6, 4, 3, and 2. And let that ring. So that final measure is really just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then however long you want that to ring. I like the simplicity and the directness of that ending, but you could do a whole bunch of different things at the end of the song, and I encourage you to put your own little signature touch on the end. You could take that last measure and instead add your favorite G7 blues lick on there. You could do a big kind of drawn out ending by strumming that G7 chord like that. And there's so many different things you could do. You could change it every single time. So I always encourage students to really lean into the ending of a song, because if we're half-hearted about an ending, it can really leave us with sort of a deflated feeling, even if we've played the song really well. So be dramatic and really commit to whatever it is you decide to do. But the ending is also a place where, as I said, you can change it up. It doesn't always have to end the same way. That's another place where you can insert some micro improvisation into the song and have it be a little bit different every time. And I also encourage that with the entire song at this point. So now that you've learned the whole thing, and if you have, it's been fun to be on the journey with you. Thanks for coming all the way to the final video here for St. Louis Blues. I hope you've enjoyed it. And yeah, I think this is a really nice foundational way to play the song. It's fairly simple and straightforward. It's kind of a nice bedrock arrangement. But I change it up quite a lot when I'm just playing it at home for fun. I'm always experimenting, trying to tweak things, changing things up, finding new ways of stating the same idea. So this is kind of my attempt to distill the song into something that we can really get an easy grasp on and give us a nice introduction to the song. But I encourage you, as you play it more and more, to change things up, to find different ways of playing it. And that might just be through sometimes the randomness of playing. Sometimes something will come to you in a moment and all of a sudden it gives you a great idea for a way to expand on what you've been playing. Sometimes it might happen because you make a mistake and it sounds interesting and you pursue it. And then another great way is to just continue listening to as many different versions of the song as you can. You might hear other fantastic guitar arrangements of it and borrow an idea here or there from those arrangements. And maybe the best place to draw inspiration from are all the different vocal versions of the song that we can listen to, because singers will have ways of phrasing things or ways of changing the melody in certain places that can really give us some fresh ideas for how we might expand on the song. Likewise, listening to instruments that are not our own. So if we're listening to a clarinet player or a saxophone player or an organ player, whatever it might be, if it's not our instrument, it's going to be coming from a different perspective and a different way of playing things. So that can just help us get out of the lens of, in this case, the guitar. If we're only thinking about things from the guitar perspective, we're going to tend to lean into the things that the guitar does well. But the other instruments, they have things that they do well that are different than the guitar, and because of that, the playing is going to change. But the beautiful thing is everybody's playing the same notes, so we can figure out what it is they're playing, and we might not even figure it out note for note. Sometimes it's just a matter of hearing something and it inspires you to do something different, and now you have a new way of playing something and a new twist that you can add to the song. So that's something I encourage you to do, is once you feel like you really have this basic version of the song down, try to continue growing with it. And the way to do that is to just keep playing it over the years and keep searching out new things and seeing where your curiosity leads you as a player. And the longer you live with a piece of music, the more chance you give yourself to make some of those discoveries and really help the piece to blossom in unexpected directions. All right, well, let me know if you have any questions. I hope you've enjoyed learning St. Louis blues, and I'll see you soon with another lesson.